Hi, I'm Kate Warren, Director of Global Recruitment Services at DevX, and welcome to my weekly Career Matters video blog. This week, I am answering the question, should I take an unpaid or paid internship? So typical career advice for those looking to break into international development is to start with an internship. Great way to meet people, build experience, and can sometimes lead to a job down the line. And if you're lucky, you might also get paid. But is getting paid for an internship a good thing? Well, of course, you might say, why would you not want to get paid if given the option? And not many people can afford to work for free. But the issue of paid versus unpaid internships can actually be a little bit more complicated than that. Case in point is a recent ruling in the U.S. in a U.S. federal court in New York, where two former interns sued their employer, Fox Searchlight, for not paying them for an unpaid internship, but then having them do very menial tasks. And they actually won this suit, and the court found that the employer had failed to adhere to the Department of Labor standards for an unpaid internship. And what they failed to comply with was a few points. One was that the internship has to be similar and provide training that would be given in an educational environment. The internship experience is for the benefit of the intern, and the employer that provides the training derives no immediate advantage from the activities of the intern. And so the court found in this case that that happened with this employer, and so they should have paid this intern because it didn't meet that criteria. So some here in the U.S. are saying this is spelling the end of unpaid internships, and that many organizations and groups will be afraid of potential liability even if they do provide substantial work to their interns. So this might mean a good thing, that there'd be more paid internships out there or less unpaid internships available, particularly for people who are looking to pay off student loans, usually living in high-cost cities. Might sound like a good thing, but in actuality, it could also lead to less internships overall. And for organizations that afford to pay for them, they could just decide not to hire an intern at all. Nonprofits and governments in the U.S. are sometimes exempt from these standards, so some of them might be able to get around that. And of course, organizations outside the U.S. do not need to comply with this, but they might have their own rules and regulations around paid versus unpaid intern labor. But I think this whole issue kind of brings to light the philosophical difference between paid and unpaid internships that's important to take note when you're considering opportunities. So there are a few reasons why employers might choose to pay or not pay interns, and that doesn't always come down to budget. One is that if they really want the intern to do some of these kind of menial tasks, making copies, fetching coffee, then they feel less guilty or feel like they might need to pay for that rather than giving them more substantial work. So if they decide they really are looking for maybe that cheap labor, in a sense, they might decide to pay. And some employers also notice that when they pay their interns, that the interns in turn treat it more like a real job. They show up on time, they're dedicated, they're more willing to do some of these tasks, and when they might be looking for much substantial work to be doing. And sometimes when they don't pay the interns, they tend to maybe not show up, be on Facebook all day, or once they do get a paid job, they leave in absence of having more substantial work to do. So sometimes organizations will decide to pay because of that. Many development organizations don't have the budget to pay interns though. And so they realize that in lieu of that, they need to be providing real valuable experience, hands-on experience, training, and learning to their interns. Some groups choose to invest in a really robust internship program, training the future leaders of development in lieu for payment. And so you do see that out there. So there can be really different motivations that organizations have in hiring interns. Some of them do it as cheap labor, and some of them do it as a way of, again, building those future leaders, and maybe will work within their organization or elsewhere, and will always think fondly of their time at that first employer that gave them a start. So it really depends on what their philosophy is, what they're looking to get out of an internship program as to what you might get out of it. And of course, you can find internships that provide both of these, but when you are looking at internships, beyond just looking whether or not they're paid or unpaid, really try to get to the heart of why they have an internship program. Ask questions about that. What is their goal? And it gets back to that question of will it employ the intern or the employer having this internship? So again, when you're looking at internships, look at them holistically. Look at, not everyone can afford to work for free, but if you're getting some really valuable experience, it could sometimes make sense to take that unpaid internship that's going to give you some really meaningful, substantive work over a paid internship where you might be doing kind of menial tasks that won't help you leverage that experience or advance your career as much as that unpaid one does. And, ideal world, you find both, but those are really important criteria to keep in mind. If you have any experience in either paid or unpaid internships, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether you think employers should be required to pay interns, and even if that means there could be less internship opportunities out there. And, what are you looking to get out of an internship? That would be great to hear everyone's comments and feedback, so please leave them below. And thank you for joining me for my weekly Career Matters video blog. If you have any questions about managing your international development career, please contact me at DevX Careers. Thanks.